right, we have a massive development in the world of Malice and Necromancer because we got another piece to the puzzle that is a follow-up to the video that I maybe made prematurely. At this point, I just kind of have to like live with that because I made a video on Friday talking all about Malice, and now we know that we've got some pretty good boots. We got some really pretty good boots. If you're taking a look on the screen, these were spoiled on stream at the end of the Calling in Hamburg, which by the way was won by Dio. That was pretty exciting, and we're getting relatively close to a bunch of heroes, like just kind of hitting the living legend status all at the same time. But that's not what we're talking about today. We'll talk about that tomorrow, because today, Danse Macabre. Yes, that's right. It is named Danse Macabre, and as someone who knows music, I appreciate this. I appreciate it deeply. And it's really cool because these are generic Necromancer legs. They are not keyed in to, like Shadow as a Shadow talent. So that means that not only can you play them as Malice, I can click on this, but you can't even see it because this is just an image. But you can play them as Gravy Bones too. You could be Gravy Bones Danse Macabre-ing it up, man. Look at this. All right, so what do these do? First of all, they are Blade Break 1, and they say whenever an ally you control enters the arena. Now, it does not specifying how you're actually doing that. You could play it from hand. You could play it, from graveyard. You could play it in any way, shape, or form. Any card allows you to play it. But whenever an ally you control enters the arena, you can pay 2 and tap this. If you do, that ally's first attack this turn gets go again and destroy that ally at the beginning of the end phase. So essentially, we are paying 2 and tapping the boots themselves in order to give go again to the attack from an ally, from the next ally that enters the arena, or the ally that is entering the arena, I should say, when you trigger this. So let's talk about how these actually function with Malice, for example. Because you are pitching 2 into this, you're kind of thinking about how this functions off of a blue, because blue is the most efficient resource generating card you can pitch, and we're not considering necessarily Soul of Existence. So if we're thinking through this, all of our zombie allies cost 0 so far that we know, right? Like Restless Quartermaster, Restless Magister, Commander, and Cleric. They all cost 0. So if we want to play one of those, we don't have to pay for them, but we do have to activate Malice's effect. So action, pay 1 and tap. Until the end of the turn, you can play target zombie from your graveyard. Go again. So when you play when you activate her, she gets the go again effect. And now you can play your zombies from graveyard. So rather than having to play a blue and then pay for them, now you just have to activate her hero effect. And of course, then you have 2 resources floating, which is very important for the boots that are no longer, or not yet, I should say, on Fabrary. And in fact, maybe I can slide these over here so that we can get a nice little view of everything happening at once. So keep these boots in mind. We have the 2 floating, and also we have the text on Vox Necropolis. Oh, let's make the boots a little smaller so we can fit everything together. One day, these boots will be on Fabrary, probably like later today, actually. This video is going to be going out on Monday, but of course we're talking about this on Sunday. So keep the boots in mind. Vox Necropolis says during your action phase, zombies you've played from graveyard or banished enter the arena tapped, and when this enters the arena, attack with it. So notice how it's doing the warrior weapon thing where it forces the thing to attack. It's not necessarily giving us an action point. So when we actually attack and the zombie stays on the board, on the next turn, we can then use these zombies you control, get action, pay 1, tap to attack. But they don't have go again. Interestingly, though, the Danse Macabre, as you can see above my head now, allows us to pay the extra 2, tap the Danse Macabre, and then when we actually attack with one of these zombies, they will have go again, thanks to the boots activation, which means we can go like 0 for 3 into 0 for 3. If our opponent's not necessarily removing these allies because they know that they are going to be slowly decaying over time, then this would be how we go about getting multiple swings. This was the question that I was asking on Friday. How do we get multiple swings out of these allies? Because you don't really have the action point generation available. The boots give us at least 1 action point generation available, which is really, really cool. And of course, we can also, buff these attacks up thanks to cards that we've seen so far, like Shadow Realm Strength, which can give our zombies like +1, or if you are looking at like the red one, +3. Same thing across like other cards as well that we've seen, like this, for example, Dig for Souls gives +4. But now all of a sudden, these 0 for 3s that are going to be sticking around, we can actually have a turn thanks to these boots, wherein we swing multiple zombies without having to jump through like multiple card plays hoops of, you know, like generating action points. Instead, the boots are just there. And it doesn't just apply to Malice, even though that is, of course, who is releasing this card alongside. You could also play these boots for Gravy Bones. So if you're looking at like Evan Tanguy's list, who, of course, won Calling Edinburgh, got some points for Gravy Bones, you could conceivably play these instead of like a Mage Master Boots. Mage Master Boots allows you to establish 2 ally turns. And you can do it exactly once. You can play double allies and you can go wide. Now, there's a very important use case to this. You play these like in a fatigue scenario where you're really trying to establish multiple ally threats on any given turn, right? So you want to be able to like threaten your opponent across multiple ally swings, or basically just threaten the board state. Like it's just going to become overrun at a certain point if they don't deal with it. So that's the point of Mage Master Boots. But we could maybe take this in a slightly different direction by playing Danse Macabre, and maybe it encourages us to be more aggressive. So there's a world perhaps where we see Danse Macabre fit into a Gravy Bones list, not necessarily as a, you know, 1-to-1 analog of Mage Master Boots, but allowing us to do more spiky swing turns more often with Danse Macabre. And that would encourage us, of course, to play more than just these allies. You would have to probably change the deck to some degree so that you can more easily pay for the 2 ally swing across, you know, multiple allies, being able to play those allies out and swing them across as well. But we could conceivably see the deck shift to accommodate a more aggressive playstyle with Danse Macabre. Now, perhaps a more fragile playstyle as well, because Mage Masters is so reliable, and it acts in a very specific mode to allow you to stick 2 allies to the board and say, deal with this, or I'm going to stick another one. And then it's the Prism situation from like 3 years ago, where they had all the auras and you couldn't do anything about it, right? That's what Mage Masters does. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to be as prevalent, Danse Macabre, as it will be in Malice for Gravy Bones here, but there could be a world where we see Gravy Bones try something with this, because it is available to them thanks to this being a Necromancer equipment rather than a Shadow Necromancer piece. Now, that being said, I do still think that there are missing pieces to this puzzle. Of course, we could play stuff like Carrion Crown. We already have what appears to be 2 pieces of equipment like totally set. You're going to be running Dead Threads. You're going to be running the card above me, Danse Macabre, especially if you're talking about Malice particularly. But the question still remains, like, how are we getting our allies consistently into the graveyard? How are we getting them into the banished zone to get them out of the banished zone into the graveyard? That's another question. Like, there are these interesting questions that these cards are sort of providing us, and we're sitting here trying to figure out how it all functions. But like, this one says, destroy this unless you put a zombie from your banished zone into your graveyard. So I posited in the last video that we're leaning on the shadow card pool to be banishing cards from our hand in some way, shape, or form, or banishing off the top of the deck. This is how the shadow card pool has functioned in the past for other heroes. And you know, it may end up just being that all of these cards that we're actually pulling out of the banished zone are simply these corrupted corpses. You know, it could just be that the whole synergy that we see so far with you know, all of these cards that are asking you to grab a banished zone ally or zombie and then, you know, pull it into the graveyard. That's literally just how we access corrupted corpses. I could see it going either way, but either way, I think it means that we do need a suite of cards in some way, shape, or form that are like the golden tipple of this hero, like that type of card. This one as well puts it into the graveyard. That's the one I was thinking of. Either of these cards, maybe it's just one of those like sort of density things where you just have enough of these and enough of these, and you kind of play this back and forth game plan. without those, without knowing that, we don't know how steady this hero is going to be, how consistent they're going to be able to do the thing. But that's going to be the most curious part. And it also is really interesting. I've been thinking about this a lot. A lot of people commented on the last video about whether or not this is going to be a good, bad matchup, whatever it's going to be, versus like Gravy Bones. And it's an interesting thing because it's like we're about to embark upon a meta that is going to have 2 board state heroes, truly, and that's not considering something like Ziggy, which does technically play board state stuff. Not really, not to this degree. And then presumably in 2027, we're going to have the return of Dromai, who's going to be building board states as well. It's just going to be a really interesting time to see how these board state heroes all match up against each other. Because if we can play a couple of allies in a way that's not too terribly difficult, then swing them and then kind of pick the board apart, she might be really good into Gravy Bones. But then at the same time, with Danse Macabre above you, the ally is going to destroy itself that you play off of it. And so you're not necessarily getting the board state that you need. So it could actually end up being a more favored Gravy Bones board state back and forth matchup. It's really kind of fun to think about. But thanks to this piece that I'm going to drag back in the front of the board, thanks to this brand new piece, we have at least a bit more information. And it's going to be really fun to play this hero. I think she's going to be a blast to play, and I can't wait to try her out when we actually understand it all. I think I'm most hyped for her out of all 3, so apologies if you wanted a video about one of the other 2 heroes. I think the next most hyped for me is personally going to be Viserai, so we'll talk about Viserai in another video after we talk about a few more things this week. But that is the news update. We have ourselves a very powerful legendary, and it is generic in the sense that it's only Necromancer, which means any future Necromancer can play it as well. And if you like this type of content and you want more talking about the game of Flesh and Blood, make the number. Go to the other number. As always, everybody, thanks for watching.